Great. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Adorama's virtual event space, 42 Live. We are pleased to have you here. And my name is Pete Isgrig, and I'm with Western Digital, SanDisk. And we are happy to bring Bob Davis, one of our ambassadors here, to speak to you about wedding photography and his experiences and the gear he uses and tips and tricks and what his expertise can teach you guys. So that said, please put some questions into the comments, and we're going to be monitoring those during this live stream, and we will get to ask your questions to Bob as well. So we want to make this very interactive for everybody. So that said, Bob, I'm going to give it to you, and you're going to have to put the little dogs down there that we see in the background, and you're going to take it away with us now, please.
Well, thank you, Adorama. Thank you, SanDisk, for allowing me this opportunity to share our passion for photography and storytelling. I have to say, my wife, Dawn Davis, she regrets that she can't be here, but we had an incident with her mom, so she's attending to that. So she sends everybody a virtual hug and wishes she could be here. So you don't get the love bomb, but I'll share as much as I can. So truly, ask us anything. And if you don't put it in the live chat now, put it in the feed later. We'll be checking these and answering questions throughout, from business, marketing, gear, storage, workflow. Really, ask us anything. We're an open book. That's one of the things I really enjoy about Adorama and Adorama TV. Seth Miranda, he's another great guy that you can ask anything. And Joe McNally, they're all my colleagues. And we all kind of stand on each other's shoulders. And as they say, the tide rises together. And that's our goal, is to share everything, because, at the end of the day, it's not about the gear, it's about your eye, it's about your creativity. And most importantly, when you're photographing people, it's about that relationship and connection you have. When we meet our couples, the first thing I say to them is, I'm only as good as the exchange of energy that you and I both have. So let's build that trust, let's build that relationship. And for me, it's not about the photograph that I have to take, but it's about the picture that truly reflects their energy and their story and who they are. So we really do come from that place that we're serving. We're capturing memories. These fine art books that we produce become family heirlooms. So it all starts with that relationship building. And even though we can't be in person currently, this technology is still allowing us to build relationships virtually, and it opens up that community. So with that, I'll kind of dive into a little bit about Dawn and I. My background is photojournalism. I've been a lifelong photographer. It's all I've ever done. So technically, I haven't worked a day in my life since high school. Dawn likes to call me the mayor of Funville because she really keeps the ship afloat. She does the hard lifting, the business management. She used to be an accountant, so she has that real ability with left brain, right brain. She's very creative, but nobody I know is as organized as her. So she does our contracting, client relations, and all of our design and retouching. So I handle the front end, and then she handles the back end. In much the same way we kind of connect with Elton John and Bernie Taupin. They write and compose music in two separate rooms. And that's the way we work too. I kind of stay out of her lane. She stays out of my lane, although I'm a whole lot more curious by nature. So I do kind of drive her crazy with asking lots of questions. Why? Why'd you do that? What are you doing this? Not from a point of criticism, but from a point of my thirst for knowledge and curiosity. And that's how I got into this whole visual storytelling, is your cameras truly become that passport to open up worlds for you. It's not just about taking pretty pictures, but it's about capturing memories and telling stories, whether that is in still pictures, video, multimedia, all of the above. It still comes down to using those tools to tell the story. So with that, I'm gonna share my desktop. And again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, let us know, and we'll address those questions right off the bat. So I'm using Photo Mechanic here to just kind of give you a high overview, and then we'll dive into some deeper things. Photo Mechanic is just a great image browser. We use it in conjunction with Lightroom in terms of workflow. And the reason being is there's nothing faster when you're on any type of image crunch or deadline, then Photo Mechanic, it can ingest multiple cards. So Pete, I'll let you jump in here and put it in the chat with the SanDisk Professional multi-card reader. That's amazing. So when I get back from a wedding, I'll load up 4, 6, 8 cards, and Photo Mechanic can ingest them, meaning bring them in simultaneously. And what we do is for everything we photograph, we fill out this IPTC stationery. It's basically the who, what, when, where, and why, and it gets embedded into every file. That way, images are never orphaned. So sometimes when things get out on the web, we have found our work used on other websites. UPS has procured photographs in the past, and we can prove it's ours because of all of our metadata that is embedded. So it's no longer an orphaned work. It's really important to tag and bag and copyright the who, what, when, where, and why, how to get you onto every file. So if you do that when you bring your images in, when we download either from the memory stick, if we're in the field, or download from our SanDisk memory cards, again, we download in the field and then back up when we get into the office. So we use these 2 SanDisk 4 terabyte SSD drives or the SanDisk memory stick, which is great as well, all fast throughput, so we're not waiting in the field. One of the events that we just recently did was a gala, 600-person gala, 2-day event, and we're moving it for a client, for an organization, and for social media. And by the end of the main event on Saturday night, because we had a digital asset manager and fast storage and fast readers and fast cards, we moved 1,800 images the night of the event. So we were able to provide all of the media, social media, all the outlets. So again, we strive to do as much quality in camera, meaning exposure, lighting, color correcting, as possible. So when you're on a deadline, you can use Photo Mechanic, bring them in, color code them, load them in the Lightroom, and then we push it up to Imagine AI. That is basically a clone of Dawn. We trained Imagine Photo AI on all of our previous Lightroom catalogs that Dawn did all of the color correcting, cropping, editing, toning, and retouching. And then Imagine takes her knowledge and makes it a preset for us. So when we're on location and I don't have access to Dawn, we can upload it in there and it does 90% of the heavy lifting. And then of course, Dawn will go back through everything and fine tune it for our clients. We roll heavy, right? When I got hired at the Chicago Sun-Times, picture editor Bob Katalik said to me, "Kid, come back with a good picture or don't come back at all. We cannot publish an excuse." So I've embraced that my entire career, from working for a newspaper, Time Magazine, Sports Illustrated, and now for our own weddings and events and corporate clients. We roll heavy. We roll in with everything we need to do the job and then some. Backup cameras, backup lighting, a ladder, a computer for downloading. We're set up to go. So normally we have 2 photographers, 1 assistant, and if we have to move images from the event, we'll actually bring in what we call a digital asset manager. And then every 30 minutes, we will hand off a card so that we're downloading the cards. So in real time, we can have things moving. So I use a roadie trolley, and this is our cases. We have think tank cases, which work extremely well for us. So again, going to a location shoot, back of the car is full. Everything I need, sandbags, lighting, grip gear, cameras, whatever we need. Because again, if one of your cameras goes down on a shoot, your client does not want to hear any excuses. They don't want to hear that it was too dark. They don't want to hear that there was a color shift. They want it done and done right. Especially in the arenas that we practice in, there is no excuse. Every job we do is on that level of the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl. So we have to be prepared. And we rehearse and we practice before any big shoot, because every shoot may need different gear, from C-stands to different strobes to speed lights to light modifiers. So we practice a few days before the setup, check all the gear, time sync all the cameras, and the teardown, so we leave nothing behind. I just recently returned from Phoenix, Arizona, and this is everything I took. So again, you might say, why not rent the gear? Well, again, it goes back to not having an excuse. In the past, I've rented gear when I've landed at places and it malfunctions, or it's not properly working, or a flash tube is burnt out. So I'd rather bring my own heads, extra flash tubes, extra batteries, bring my gear, and I know it's all going to work. One known trick is if you fly and you are a professional photographer, bring your business card that has a link to your website. You could tell every airline that you are media. And as long as they have access to your business site, you only get charged $50 per bag for up to 100 pounds. Instead of normally these bags would be charged by weight and by size. So this last trip, I checked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bags. I carry on my computer and I carry on my primary cameras. I use Apple AirTags in every bag, which I have found to work just as good as the former bag trackers I used to use, which are Gecko, which actually work off of a cellular signal. So I was using dual for a while, both Gecko air trackers and then the Apple AirTags. And the Apple AirTags respond more quickly, and inevitably somebody is always on the ramp with an iPhone. On location, here I am. I was during a wildlife workshop. We were photographing the sandhill crane migration. And I was doing laundry in the laundromat. So pull out the digital darkroom, pull out your backup drives, download your cards, do a quick call and edit and upload to a website, all while I was doing my laundry, right? Quick and convenient and secure. So this was the recent event. And one of the things I really like about Photo Mechanic is if you look over here to the right is the metadata. Never stop learning. So when you're checking your photographs and an image looks too dark, too blue, too whatever, check your histogram. We have our histogram visual on the back of our camera at all times so that we could dial in color and exposure. Never judge the quality of the image from the LCD screen. Never judge your color or your exposure because it could be off. Where the histogram is going to remain true from the back of your camera to your post workflow. So this is a straight out of camera file. This is a step and repeat. And while they did have the step and repeat lit with LED panels, there were dark spots. So where the panel would hit, you'd get a fall off and then a pickup again. So instead of me relying on that, and another thing is I would have to shoot at a higher ISO and a lower shutter speed because they're not that bright, I lit this 30-foot step and repeat with 3 FJ400 Westcott strobes, 1 on-camera FJ80 flash that I sometimes used and sometimes turned off, where in this scene, the on-camera flash is off, so we're not lighting up the back of their heads over here. We're allowing the 3 FJ400s with the Mag Mod extra large spheres and domes on to illuminate evenly across the entire step and repeat. Again, you can't publish an excuse. So these are the straight out of camera files, good exposure, color is dialed in, we can live with this and move on. Here's the actual event. And while there is a lot of stage lighting going on here, the color temperatures are all over the place. So I work with the lighting director and I find out what's their baseline color temperature. And it's usually around 4,900 degrees, 4,800 degrees. So it's a little bit warm on the tungsten side. And yet then they hit with these spots, which you could see up top here, which are daylight. So it mixes a lot. This light over here, that's daylight. So we decided to add our own lighting. We do a technique called the triangle of light, where we put 3 strobes in the room. So here's a strobe, here's a strobe. Actually, these are Canon EL1 speed lights, and we are using an external high voltage battery pack on them for increased recycle time and longevity. And then there's one behind me. So there are groups A, there is on camera, B is down here, C is over here, and D is in the back of the room. My off-camera flashes are 99% of the time always in manual mode, because if I'm photographing toward the light in an ETTL, oftentimes that will cut back your flash output. So I set my baseline exposure. The back of the room is usually a 1/4 power. Stage left and stage right are usually an 1/8 power, and I never have to go above 1600 ISO. If you look at the metadata over here, and I change my shutter speed according to the amount of ambient light I want in the room. So if you think about it, ISO is how sensitive your camera is to light. Aperture is the output we're asking from the flash. Shutter speed is the amount of ambient light you allow to affect the scene. So you can see on the table here, the head table, very hard spotlighting down on the flowers. So we don't want them to burn out. So that's where we're using the shutter speed to go for that. Our flashes are giving this nice light on our hosts, Mr. and Mrs. Stevenson, who are hosting this gala for Gateway for a Cure. They're trying to fund a cure for cancer. So we're lighting them in combination with the house lights and off-camera flash. General rule of thumb is our house lights are one stop darker than our flash. That allows that nice separation to give us depth and dimension. And let me know if I'm talking too fast, right? So I tend to get on a tangent and ramble. So either one of you guys let me know. Here's that step and repeat shot. Look how beautifully lit everything is, only at 500 ISO. All the other guys that are on the step and repeat line are using one on-camera flash, and then they're also trying to drag the shutter to get the light panels. They were getting a color shift as well because the light panels aren't true daylight. The flashes were one different color. So we want this straight out of camera to look good. Here, we did use a little on-camera fill flash. You can see it reflecting in his glasses because we want that highlight in their eyes. Women tend to use more eye makeup than men, and you just want that pop of light right in their eyes, right? Galas, big events, they're fun. Takes a lot of gear, a lot of energy, a lot of imagination, and a lot of prep, but you can pull it off. Weddings. Weddings are our bread and butter. I love a beautiful wedding. And again, I'm only as good as the exchange of energy and the rapport we build up with the couple. Once we understand our couple, their style, their look, then we could work with them to get the images that they're seeking. So usually what we like to do with every event, every wedding, is we create a lookbook. I ask the couples to send me photographs that they gravitate to, because my visual wording for editorial, fashion, fun might be different from theirs. So if we get a lookbook and we put it together, that totally lets me know what they gravitate towards in terms of style and look. This couple was not too forward. They were a little bit camera shy, a little bit more traditional, which I understood that language when I saw the photos that they liked. So we worked with them accordingly. They did want a little bit of moodiness that they told me. So this is what we did. We went with a direct flash in this dark environment, one off-camera direct flash, creating that nice shadow behind them and allowing the color temperature to balance with the tungsten light in the environment. So we use Kelvin instead of any white balance presets because we could dial in the color temperature exactly. You check the histogram here, and the red, green, and blue levels are near equal in length. I'm not as concerned with the height as I am the length. So the red channel is creeping slightly to the right. Well, that's the warmth of the flesh tones and the tone of the room. We tend to gravitate, and so do our clients, toward a little bit of warmer images. So we just put a full correct to orange over. This was in one off-camera FJ200 with a grid to create that harder light look and to help us create the shadow. And the reason the chandelier is a neutral white is because we are in color temperature orange, photographing at a Kelvin of 2900 degrees. So we want to balance to make sure we don't have a warm tone background and a cool tone foreground. We want the dresses, because they are expensive designer dresses, to remain color accurate. Here's another fun example of the triangle of light at work. So if you look in the background, this is the couple. They come out, do their first dance. I was using a fisheye lens, an old Canon 15mm 2.8 EF lens on my R5 with the RF to EF adapter. Still works great. You can't get that 15mm 2.8 lens anymore. So I've hung on to it. Works beautifully. Autofocus was great. Now the band has lighting up here, And you could see, I'll zoom in, 3 sets of lights on one light stand, right? And the reason is there's videographer's light panel. That's my light popping. Here's our second shooter, and here's our third shooter. So we had 3 photographers at this event. Myself, I'm covering the primary bride and groom. Our second photographer, Larry Remaker, you could see here, was covering reactions and the side of the event. Our third photographer, because there was so much decor and detail, Carrie White, she was photographing using the same lighting technique and skills to photograph the details. So lighting is key. Now here we bumped up the ISO a little bit because I wanted a faster recycle time. So again, you make the camera a little bit more sensitive to light. I usually hover between that 1250 and 2500 ISO, depending on the aperture I'm using and how fast I want the recycle time. In here, these are the Canon EL1 speed lights. You could see the off-camera battery is right there. It's the Godox battery, and it allows 2 speed lights to be powered from it. It has 2 power ports, and it just helps the EL1 to have a quicker recycle time, and the battery could last all day, both within the speed light itself and the battery, the high voltage battery itself. So it's just spectacular. And instead of using the FJ200s off camera all the time, you might ask, well, there is a method to my madness. If at all possible, I will always default to Canon speed lights. And here's the reason why. You may or may not know this, but with mirrorless and the latest firmwares and the latest Canon speedlight technology is TTL works off of the face head eye detection. So that's why right out of camera, my on-camera flash I'm using, right? Because I'm standing within that sweet spot of the triangle. The D light, which is way behind me across the room, might cast my shadow onto the couple if I don't have the on-camera flash active. If I am outside of the triangle of light, like previous photographs I shared with you, then I turn the on-camera flash off and it's just sending instructions. Now, the on-camera flash is always in TTL because I forget and I move close to the subject, I move away from the subject, I'm changing my aperture, it's always tracking. And so with the newer technology, it keeps the flash exposure biased to their faces, regardless of the background. So the way flash exposure used to work with ETTL, which means electronic through the lens, is a pre-flash is emitted. The light is reflected off either darker light tones, and the light goes through the lens, and then the camera and the flash communicate on flash output. It'll say either more or less light. It used to be frustrating, and it used to get fooled. Depending if it was a dark tone, it would tend to blast more light. If it's a bunch of bright tones like this scene, the whites, the white floor, the white curtains behind, it might underexpose because it's saying too much light. Now, with that face head eye detection and TTL being linked to the active focus point, it is 100% more accurate, and it's been a huge advantage. Moving on. So we pre-light spaces. So if we go back here, we arrive early in the day. The EL1s are set up within the event space so that we could walk in and just start shooting details, just start shooting whatever. When I'm up in the room, I'll use the FJ system. So the FJ200s and an FJ80 so that I could progressively move and nobody is ever waiting for me to change my lights and to set it up. Event planners, everybody appreciates it because we're not slowing the day down to move, reset, find our exposure, find the lighting that we want to do. So this is just a fun shot. The bride popping a confetti champagne bottle on the bed. Again, I want a little bit more aperture, meaning depth of field, because we want everybody in focus. So as she popped a cork, we have 2 FJ200s off camera. Now, if you look at this, it's very even light. So what we're doing is we're pointing those flashes into the corner of the room, right up at a 45-degree angle at that sweet spot where the ceiling and the wall meets, creating a nice, large, soft bank of light. Yes, I did have the on-camera active just in case recycle time, if one of those weren't keeping up with the recycle time, but the FJ200s work really, really well and the recycle time keeps up. Again, I upped the ISO. I really didn't need 1000 ISO in this setting, but Let's skip that. But at 6.3, I want a faster recycle time so the flash doesn't have to work as hard. Again, the off-camera flashes are manual. I did a test shot beforehand. On camera is TTL. Now, here's another thing to think about. If you're doing these shots and there's going to be a lot of confetti, even though you have face, head, eye detection, I've been burned by that. So learn from my mistake. Focus on their faces. You're not going to move. They're not going to move. Lock it in manual, because sometimes that confetti will fall right in front of the autofocus mark. See, like what I'm doing with my hand here, and you'll get an autofocus photo of the couple or the bride or the subject. So if you know a bunch of confetti or something's going to fall like that, boom, lock in the focus manual. I'm not moving my distance. And quickly, as soon as the confetti stops falling, my thumb is right on the AF to manual switch. I go burp, right back to AF, and we're back in business, right? But you practice these things. I do shoot, or I should say I do photograph wildlife. So here's some wildlife fun shots, right? No, no off-camera flash, no lighting necessary on this, although I did take my time. I was down in Texas, went there for Canon. We gave a lecture on how to photograph the eclipse in totality. So this is just outside of Austin, Texas. And my goal was to photograph some Texas longhorns. The wildflowers were blooming. So I just walked really slowly, calmly, not making direct eye contact. And I was able to have these Texas longhorns remain relaxed in a field of wildflowers, was able to get close enough to use a 15mm lens, right? So wildlife is a passion of mine, and it kind of resets me and gets me in my zen, so to speak, so that I could go back to crazy events and weddings and be prepared. So we do all kinds of wildlife. Again, I will do lighting. I always bring a flash with me. So this is an off-camera flash on a trip to Africa. So I used a mag beam to actually spotlight this skull, and it was the vertebrae. So our guide had set it that way. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So I asked my guide to give the flash to the Jeep behind us. And I asked one of our photographers that were with us on the safari to aim it, hit the test shot, perfect, boom. Again, same technique, underexpose that background by about 1.5 stops. And then we lit up the subject because it's kind of pre-touching instead of retouching. So we're illuminating the subject and darkening the background in camera versus in post-production. Watering hole, some nice long exposure. In fact, this is also a panorama. So this is where you take several vertical photographs and we bracketed within a 5-stop range, and you merge them all with photo merge, high dynamic range in Lightroom. I also do this for portraits. So you'll see that here in a second. So any questions before I jump forward? That's kind of like the overview of our events and gear and wildlife. We're still all good? I guess silence is good. Yeah. All right. So here's a high level of what we do: weddings, engagement sessions, and events. So what I want you to notice is in this contact sheet view is the consistency of quality. And that's what you want, the consistency in the look. If you look at our Instagram feed, Bob and Dawn Davis, or for photographers, it's Bob and Dawn Davis in the Wild, or our Facebook, Bob and Dawn Davis, or our website, you'll notice our black and whites are consistent. Our color is consistent. There aren't wild flares. There aren't wild color shifts. The black and whites aren't warm tone, cool tone, washed out. There is a consistent look from our event work, corporate work, wildlife work. And that's what we strive for, is that consistency throughout. Dawn and I both work very hard at it. I work hard to give her the best possible capture, and then she works really hard on the back end to let our images shine. So this is just kind of a quick overview of weddings and even fireworks. A lot of people find fireworks challenging. What I like to do for fireworks photograph is rim light, put 2 speed lights in front of our subjects. Low flash output is all you need. to just give that kiss of light, and it feels as if the fireworks and the twinkle lights are illuminating our subjects. I did have one speed light off camera left at a very low flash output to give us this detail in the back of her hair, right? This was handheld because you could take that ISO up high enough, shooting at a 13th of a second, plenty of light with the fireworks, and you could shoot at rapid frame capture. So you're going to get plenty of frames and be very still, right? So it's just one of those techniques. Landscape. Here is the landscape technique of a stitch and pan. Now you could just take a 16mm lens and shoot it. But when you go to put this image in the book, you lose a lot of top and bottom. By doing it in a panoramic format, we are able to keep the aspect ratio the same as a center truck spread of a horizontal book. Thereby, we get more information, more detail within the photograph and a higher quality print. And this is lit. This is two FJ400s off camera with 58-inch Apollo orbs, umbrellas, and an on-camera flash just in case, like you get a person back here that might be in the shadows, bouncing off the ceiling, just lightly filling in the detail there. But when you punch in here, there you go. You can see the two highlights from the umbrellas, right? Everything is just spot on and working. So it's a landscape technique, and I'll tell people, hey, I'm on this group, hold your smile, hold your expression, keep moving, you're out, you're in it, you're out, you're in it, until we get all the way across. So it's just a nice technique to use in that environment when you have large group portraits. Off-camera flash outside, Chicago, overcast, dark day. The bride was a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I want to go out. It's so gray, kind of yucky. I was hoping for, nice light. I'm like, don't worry, we got you. So again, our assistant, one off-camera flash. Again, we're about a stop and a half difference between ambient light and the light we're using. Off-camera flash with the radio signal is just impeccable, and it allows you to be as creative as you want to be. Now, we try and do our lighting to complement the scene, to not make it as obvious, I guess is the right word I'm looking for, or over the top. But it doesn't matter. It's whatever your style is. We want to have our pictures be timeless and classic and not have a technique or a style date them. Same way with the editing. Outside at night, one off-camera flash, and dragging the shutter a sixth of a second to pull in that ambient light. Same couple as before, so you can still see it did rain, but we use that off-camera flash, lighting in the background, color balance, right? We balanced our strobes to tungsten, so we don't get that color shift in the background with the warm glow of the city behind and a cool tone of the couple in the foreground. Outside, again, you might think, why do you need a flash on this gorgeous, beautiful day? Well, you can see the actual ambient light is very directional coming from a hard angle camera right. And if we didn't have her positioned properly with the light, which she wasn't, there would be a shadow from her fiance onto her face. By filling it in with off-camera flash, again, outside, I'm going to use a strobe FJ400 with a sport reflector, which actually magnifies the light, throws it in. All I need to do is to light the subjects, and we let the background fall away. We get that nice, wonderful separation between foreground and background. But our style and look that we're striving for is very natural. Both of these are lit, right? You can see this is a little bit more obvious in the lighting because I'm so frontal, but the actual side lighting, this long shadow here, is from the sun. And there was no way I could get the city view and the light from the sun on their faces. So that's, again, why we chose to use on-camera flash. Now, it's not a crutch for me. I'll use whatever light is available to me. Just if the light is not good, I'm going to use the lighting that I have available to me. And that is always going to be an off-camera flash, right? Same thing here. We light our details so that I could shoot at a larger aperture, meaning f5, 6.3, 7.1 in that range, so that we get the rings in focus. right? If you're shooting macro, which this is a 100mm macro lens, and if you're at 2.8, anything less than 5.663, and you focus on the top diamond, everything else is soft. So you can see this is at aperture 10, and we still get fall off really quickly to the groom's band. Now the diamond band and the engagement ring are in focus. To get focus down to the gold band, you probably need to be around aperture 16. Now I do vary it. I will take it ambient light. I will take it at 2.8. I'll take it at 5.6, and then I'll take it higher up. Boom, 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 boom. We have that lighting set up. That gives Dawn a lot of leeway for the look that she wants to create for the book design. Sometimes you want that softer look, shallower depth of field. Sometimes you don't, right? Again, beautiful bridal portrait, right? Off-camera flash. And, it's just so spectacular. You could see my reflection within her eyes. So this is 2 FJ400s. This is in the exact spot where we were going to do the family portraits. So we set it up and boom, do our shoots. Lighting is key, right? I wanted a narrower depth of field, so 3.5, right? So she's not blending in with this painting that was in the environment. It really popped her off the background. It's another thing that TTL is great because let's say I was all dialed in manual and I had my settings dialed in for 6.3 for the group portraits. And she steps over and I want to do this quick portrait. I just change the mode on my speed light transmitter from manual to TTL and boom, I got it. And I go right back to manual and the settings are sticky. And that's the same if I'm using the Westcott system or if I'm using the Canon system. Similar situation, confetti, champagne bottle, same thing, bouncing the lights into the corner of the room, right? Strive to be a little bit creative. Again, lit her face with the flash, one flash in the foreground. So this is a 2-light setup. One so that her body wasn't so silhouetted. I give Dawn the choice of both. I turned off the front flash. It wasn't on camera, but it was from on access with the camera. And then I had a flash lighting her from the side. And we're still blending it with the ambient light. Hence the shutter speed is 1/800th of a second. So we're in high speed sync land, right? Get really creative with the lighting. Again, shape your lighting, use light shapers. This is using the speed light with the mag beam. So the light that's in the background here is the ambient light, our shutter speed, hence 1/80th of a second, aperture 4. And then we just use TTL to get this light dialed in here. So yes, you could do this in post, meaning mask it, darken the background. But again, I've been edited my entire life by magazine editors, newspaper picture editors, and now Dawn is my editor. So always try and strive to get it right in camera. Another panoramic portrait outside using one FJ400. We went on a photo walk. They wanted to do the bridal party here. So it's 3 shots left to right, boom, 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 vertically. Stitch them together. It's so easy to do in Lightroom and Photoshop these days that it just gives a different perspective that you don't get with just going your 24 or 35mm wide. It gives a different aspect ratio by using a longer focal length, photographing vertically. And we have to do whatever we can to differentiate ourselves from the iPhone and the competition. Again, lighting is key. Trying to balance the indoor light with the outdoor light. Here was the set for this client. So this was for a magazine editorial shoot. Mommy, babies, raising kids and still being a professional. So we have hair, makeup, stylists, social media. So we were photographing tethered, and I had a big octabox for the main light. And if we look down here, I was using ProPhotos for this one. Here's ProPhoto A1s. I still have the ProPhoto system as well. But the limitation with ProPhoto is you truly don't have independent groups. So here's where I'll share. Now, I started off with the main light in TTL to get our light rating here. And I noticed that we were getting very little detail in these flowers. It just wasn't filling up in there. So I put an A1 on each side, and we needed them to be in manual, because if it was in TTL, it was going to give me too much light to compete with the main light. Now, the limitation with ProPhoto is while you have 7, 8 different groups, you have A, B, and C are always and forever locked together. So if I want my A light, the main light, to be TTL and I switch it to manual, the B and C light are going to follow suit, right? And if I really want that separation, let's say I want to keep the A light in TTL and B and C light in manual at different flash outputs, I can't do that because it's either all TTL or all manual. Yes, you can access the D group with ProPhotos, which is always and forever manual. So if I wanted these 2 off-camera flashes in manual on each side, they would both have to be in D. B in D groups, not B and D, but B in D groups. Now, if I wanted a different power output for each one and be able to control it from my controller, right, I'm stuck. I could put them in D and E, but then I have to manually touch E to change the flash power output on it. And it's not a 2-way readout, meaning I could set those flashes and you get in the zone and you're shooting and you're like, oh, wait a minute, what was the flash output in group D? I don't know, because it doesn't tell you. It's wherever you left it, right? So you have to go and look at it. And, you know, I've gone back and forth with ProPhoto trying to get them to have a truly independent groups like Canon, like Godox, and like Westcott. So that's why I've started shooting Westcott for my large lighting and flash groups, right? Because Canon doesn't have anything larger than a speed light. I need a real ecosystem, that speed light, a 200 watt second flash, and I also need that strobe, that 400 watt second strobe, right, for big light modifiers. And I need it all to work together. All right, I'll just cruise through here in case anybody, again, same editorial shoot. It's not natural light, it's natural light and the Octabox, right? This one was a concept shoot. So again, lighting outside. This is a 2-light setup. So a 7-foot umbrella with a shoot through scrim on it, and then a 58-inch umbrella on the bottom for fill. And it was just fun. We had peacocks and it was an editorial shoot. It was fun. We chose to use the 28-70 and shoot it aperture 2 to make it more soft, ethereal, and dreamy. But again, when we zoom in, I lose where I'm at here. Let's go to 100%. Yep. You can see the highlights in her eyes, right? Just beautiful from that one light, and how soft the fall off is at f2. And I love that 28-70 because it is sharp as sharp. And it gives me 5 different lenses, 28, 35, a 50, 70, sorry, 4 different lenses, all at f2. So I don't need the other primary lenses in my bag. Remotes. We do an awful lot of remote cameras at events. And this comes from my days of photographing sports when I was at the Chicago Sun-Times. So I was fortunate enough to photograph Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, all his championships with all of that. And I would have remote cameras around the arena, behind the backboard, in the stands, on the floor. I've taken that technique and we brought it to weddings as well. So this is a Pocket Wizard Plus 4. And I have another Pocket Wizard Plus 4 on my primary camera, so that when I shoot, this camera shoots at the exact same moment simultaneously. So the advantage is, let me, where's, do I have one in here? Let me find it. We do something. It's in the next gallery. I'll get to it. So I call it a hoopacam. So basically what it is, it's like having the camera behind the backboard. And we use the remote to get up there, or we use the remote when she's walking down the alley. So down the aisle. There we go. Right? Again, here you could see the lights reflecting in the mirrors, bouncing, right? And the on-camera flash. And that's me right there. And they will keep up at the high speed frame rate. So it's fun to be able to shoot at such a fast frame rate and capture these moments as they pop the champagne. This bride was also a designer. She designed this dress and had it made for her. And she wanted to show the separation or the transparency of the design of the dress through her legs. So she stood in front of the window and she goes, I want to be able to see that I have two legs. The natural light wasn't cutting it. So I actually put a speed light in the window aimed to illuminate it so that we got that silhouette, so that we could see that effect. So it worked, right? Same thing, backlighting. Everything has a kiss of light to it. Another panoramic shot, right? For the large groups. Here is the ceremony space, and this is the triangle of light with the on-camera flash turned off. So I'm standing underneath the wedding canopy, or you would call it a huppah, and you could see here's my lights. This is the backlight, so that would be in group D. I have a light, and you could see the illumination over here on the flowers. That's in group C, and the light over here is in group B, and my on-camera is always in forever group A. We can't change that, right? So that's just turned off so that we get that nice backlight come through them. Here is the triangle of light with the on-camera flash active to get the processional. It's the amazing way to just get this light and this illumination really sharp, beautiful photographs as people process and recess down the aisle. Here's our detail shots. Same thing. We can vary by having the independent groups. I could turn the on-camera flash off, which is in group A, and we can go from there. We can make group B the main light, group C turn off. We could get cross lighting, main lighting. It's amazing for when people are doing the toasts, the light we could create. First dance, right? Here's lights going off. This is toward the wedding canopy, which you saw before. Here's the group B, here's group C, group D is behind me. And because I'm in with all the people, I have the on-camera flash active, right? A lot of fun. Macro shot again, get the bokeh in the background. Good stuff. Details, right? So we have to photograph the details with the same care that we do for the cinematic shots, that we do for the portraits, that we do for the stylized shoots. Because if you think about it, there is nothing logical about a wedding. Everything about a wedding is based in emotion. This glass, that jar, these flowers, the silverware, the plates, everything had an emotional decision tied to it. So we want to photograph it with that same care, that same technique, that same quality, right? Again, there is off-camera flash in here, but we are blending it in with the environment. We're trying to match the ambient light color temperature and not overpower the decorative lighting, but to add that kiss of light within the environment. You know, this looks very natural light, high key, but we would not see their faces if there was not a flash, camera right, with a lower flash output to match the environment in the scene. Right? Photographing, I pick up a glass, I shoot through it, illuminating the dress. I kind of like this storytelling moment, 2 rooms, and there's a flash in each one of those rooms bouncing into the ceiling, right? That's the way we get this detail in the bride's face. Think about it. If this was just ambient light, she would be a silhouette. Or I would have to overexpose the scene so much that there'd be very little detail within the whites, right? Do the same technique with the guys getting ready. We tell their story. We photograph their details. The devil is in the details, and it's all about capturing those moments. I really do enjoy photographing the details. You can't get this with one on-camera bounce flash, and you can't get this look with ambient light. So I'm hitting home a lot about the triangle of light and lighting. We strive to capture couples in their best light, both literally and figuratively. So that's what we do, right? That's how we tell these stories. That's how we preserve these memories. And then this is all ambient light. I will make the shot with the decor lighting. So you can see they have colored lighting for the band. They have pin spot light trees to light up all the tables. They have spotlight trees here, right? And it's very harsh lighting. But when people get in this environment, and if you shot it with just ambient light, well, then it's very spotty. And then you spend a ton of time in post-production trying to open up people's faces, trying to open up their eyes, trying to bring that quality to it, right? Little rear curtain sync. All the flash systems will do off-camera rear curtain sync. What rear curtain sync means is you're dragging the shutter using a longer shutter speed. You're creating motion in the environment to bring that energy to life, and the streaks go away from your subject. First curtain sync means you expose, flash fires, the streaks go across your subject. Rear curtain sync means the shutter opens, we're exposing, flash fires on the back end, thereby freezing our subject. Toasts. There you go. No on-camera flash. I'm photographing over the bride and groom's shoulder, and it's just the pure triangle of light. It's timeless. It's classic. It gives a depth of field and lighting. So by now, I think you get where I'm going with this. I'm kind of harping on it a lot. Here's another image. You can't get this look with bounce flash. You can't get this look with ambient light, right? Because there was no light on the priest when he was giving the prayer, the welcome prayer for the dinner. So those are our lights. The lights are right here, and they have mag spheres on them. The reason we use a mag sphere is because light is linear. When it hits that sphere, it helps diffuse it and spread it out so that we could use these lights in other directions, right? So even though this is the B light, it's still casting to the side, giving this nice rim light separation on the groom. The C light is lighting up her face, and my on-camera flash is filling in those cross light shadows, right? Again, another big confetti blast. Remember, set your distance, manual focus, shoot away. You don't want to get burned when that confetti falls right in front of your focus marks and your focus shifts and you miss a great expression or a great moment. All right. Any questions? Am I rambling? Anybody out there feels like I'm talking to myself in a black box?
No, I think you are good. I mean, most of the questions we've gotten, you've answered in
Okay.
your general presentation. So, yeah.
Well, before we get to what I call diagramming the print, let's run through an actual book design. So this is what we end up delivering to the client. So you've seen all my front end work. I've shared with you the techniques. And now this is Dawn's magic. And we like to say the book is the hook. You always want to provide, in my opinion, a printed output because you work so hard on the quality of the front end that if you don't give them a professional output via UPrint and give them loose prints and artist selection, or they use your lab or a printed book, they'll never know the true quality. If they take and you do a shoot and burn and they take those images to Costco or Walgreens or wherever and get them printed and the color is off and the exposure is off and the quality is terrible, that reflects on you. So sign your work with excellence and always provide a printed output. Also, digital is fleeting. And what I mean by that is, sure, people buy the digital download, they buy our digital negatives. And oftentimes I'll get a call 5 years later where they've gotten a new computer and they didn't migrate their data and they lost all their digital memories. And they're like, oh, can we re-download our photographs? And because we use a lot of SanDisk storage and G-Tech RAIDs, we have all that stuff stored up, you know, but that costs money. So yes, we have to charge them for that. And after 5 years, I reach out to our clients. We're only obligated to store things for 2 years in our contract. But after 5, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, do you want me to continue storing it? Otherwise, I'm going to purge. And here is the fee if you want us to continue storage. And it's about 50-50. 50% of the couples they'll pay the yearly fee and they want us to manage that. It's just peace of mind for them because people don't migrate their data. And if they don't output their images, they don't have anything to look at them and view them. So by digital being fleeting, meaning if you give them a print and a book, they don't need a device to look at them or enjoy them. So I was just looking here. I have some old photos of my mom from 1934 that I like to use as an example. Oh, they're right here. And if I needed a digital device when these got lost, it would just be, terrible if I couldn't show these pictures or have these. These are my mom from 1934, but because I have the prints, I have those memories preserved. So printing is still valuable. So Dawn tries to tell a story on every spread, right? Here's the couple, welcome, here's their date, and then we go into the storytelling. So each spread will tell a story, the story of all the details, her getting ready, her and her friends, right? First look with dad, first look with the bridesmaids, the reveal, all the fun things, her bridal portraits, right? And again, not afraid to just go ambient light. That's this image. No need for using off-camera flash. In fact, this entire spread is available light. If the quality of light is there, I'll use it. And that's what I'm always looking for. And we go into his details, his gift, his reveal, him getting ready, right? Tell that story. His portraits, then their first look, then their photo walk, portraits of just the two of them. We work with our couples. We have an extensive questionnaire. We make sure we have time allotted. I like to tell our couples anything is possible with time and money. It's when you get the expectations of 30 family photos and we want to go on this photo walk, but you have 1 hour to do it in, that's impossible. So we like to work with our couples to set proper expectations to not turn their day into a photo shoot, but to accomplish the photographs they want in a timely manner. And oftentimes our family sessions are usually more than 2 hours. They're usually 2.5, 3.5 hours. So that's why we use strobes instead of speed lights for that, because it's going to keep up with the recycle time. The quality of light is going to be far different. And then nobody is waiting. And again, we've pre-lit this. We knew where we were going to do the portraits. So the FJ400s were set up with the umbrellas. The triangle of light is already set up within the ceremony, and that space is going to be turned for the reception. And then we have walk around lights, meaning the FJ200s, right? So we can flow with the day and not have to set up lights and move lights and hold them back. The timelines for our events are extremely tight. There is no downtime at all. So if they had to wait for us to move and reset and change our lights, the client or the event planner might get frustrated with that. So we've just found it better to be more efficient and to pre-light all the locations that we're going to be to. And then if we run out of, we have 3 sets of lights, and if we go to a 4th or a 5th, then we'll have our assistant leapfrog the lighting. Again, it's preset, it's pre-done. We did a rehearsal. We're prepared for that. So here's a ceremony. And this was completely dark. You could see the twinkle light curtain behind them. This was a candlelit ceremony. I honestly don't know how you would do this if it was available light. Stunning, amazing details in the room. And then it's just a big party. And you have to remember, when you're at a wedding, when you're at an event, be kind, be gracious, be patient, because those are your future clients and customers, right? And we always include a contact page at the back of the book so you know who photographed it and how you could reach us. All right, let's see. Check this, check this, check to think we are good. So here's the picture we are going to talk about. What I'm going to do, and this was from our wedding on May 4th. So this is fresh out of the can. Triangle of light with the on-camera flash. And you could also see I set up a remote camera. They wanted an elevated view as if there was a second story in the room. The room is tall, but there is no elevated place to photograph from. So I set an R5 on a platy ball head, put on the interval timer, and let it go, right? We shoot away. Here's our on-camera flash. We set them up always the same, so I never have to think. Camera left is group B, camera right is group C, the back of the room is D, on-camera flash is A. These were each at 1/8 power manual. Back of the room, because it wasn't a very wide room, it was a 6 power. On-camera flash was TTL. So our assistant was shooting, and he doesn't quite have 3 lights. So he set up his ProPhoto A1s right next to our 2 lights. Larry and I are running off of the Godox battery with our EL1s and mag mods. And yes, everything is gelled to match the environment. All right, I'm going to switch and fire this up, and we are going to diagram the print. So I hope this will be helpful. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And there we go. So Pete, can you see the photograph? All right. So we're going to start off. Obviously, I've already talked about the triangle of light. I'm on the dance floor down low. So I got my camera here. And this is the EOS R3. And I'm using on-camera flash. And this is in group A. And that's the Canon EL1. The EL1 is filtered with a CTO gel. So all CTO gels. That way we don't have a color shift in the background, the tones of her dress, the tones of his jacket, they are what they are. Our off-camera flash here is set up the same. So this is in group C. This one is in group B. Now, you could set them in TTL if you choose to. I choose to go manual. And the reason being is I get consistency in flash output. So let's say I'm on this side of the room, we're shooting into the light, TTL, the pre-flash happens instantaneously, and it's trying to give you the aperture value of the photograph in the foreground. So our settings are 3200 ISO. So I'll put that in here. ISO 3200. Let's see. And we're shooting at aperture 4 at a 60th of a second. So f4 1/60th, right? So now that underexposed our ambient light. It was totally dark, low light level ambient light in here. Everything's black. So at a 60th at f4, we're 2 stops underexposing any ambient light. That's why the photograph is nice, crisp, sharp, because the flash is actually freezing the action. We have a flash back here, and this is the D group. Now again, 1/8, 1/8, 1/6, and this one is in TTL, because I'm moving all over this dance floor and I want to be able to run up and capture a reaction over here, still getting my layers of light from the triangle of light, and then my TTL is perfectly illuminating the subject's faces. Again, it works so well because we are using face, head, eye detection. I was using the our f24 to 105 zoom lens at 24 millimeters. So that way we could capture everybody. But look at the layers of light that's going on. Look at the rim lighting going on Andrew. I mean, we were able to capture this amazing moment. The first dance was wonderful. We're circling each other, so Larry and I stay on opposite sides of each other. While I'm photographing the couple, he's photographing a reaction, and we keep an eye on each other. And as he turns to photograph the couple, I'll go and look for the parents of the bride and groom and get in on them. So that way we're tag teaming and we're working and we're going through it. So we have tremendous power being wireless, all from camera. So I have one EL1 on my 24 to 70, 24 to 105. My second body is another EOS R3. It has the 70 to 200 with the STE 10 speed light transmitter on it. So those are just using all off-camera flashes. So I could zoom in on this person, and let's say I need more light from the D light. I could go D group, boom, quarter power, or change my ISO, or change my aperture, right? One or the other. You don't need to change a bunch of variables at the same time. Only change one variable at a time. Otherwise, you'll get confused. So I already know if I'm outside the triangle of light with the 70 to 200, I'm usually at 125th at 3.5, same ISO. If I want to shoot faster, I might take the ISO up on that camera, and that way the flashes are still giving you the same flash output, and then we could shoot at a faster frame rate. Now, again, getting back to why we don't do TTL on these flashes, as I shared before, we're shooting at aperture 4. These flashes, if they were in TTL, might dump full power, overexposing everything in the background because it's trying to give you exposure value of f4 from the front, because that's where the camera is reflecting the light off of it, right? So that's why we get far more consistency by having our off-camera speed lights in manual mode. And from camera, we can turn each group on, off, power up, power down, right? So I hope that makes sense. I can flip over to their wedding, and then that way I could show you some of the speeches. Do we have time for that? Where we actually change the lighting from camera.
Yep, you have time.
Okay. Which reception did I do? Get to it here, getting ready. We just do this. Oh, Blue. Oh, you're feeling neglected, are you? This is my boy Blue. He's got a cone on because he was just neutered. I know, puppy. I know. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, get down. Gonna drop this in, and Blue. I know, puppy. I know. Okay. So here you can see as they walk in. Oh, Blue. All right, stop. That'll. So as they walk in, we did some rear curtain sync. Come on, Blue. Why are you being so crazy? Rear curtain sync. So we're changing the lights. That's shooting back toward the D group. Here was the first dance. You can't tell which images are mine or which images are Larry's because
I don't think you're sharing a screen.
Oh,
if you,
sorry about that. Thanks for the heads up. Okay. Now you can see it.
Yep.
So here's a first dance series. Here is the remote camera. Let me make it big, right? There's me down low from that shot that we just diagrammed. So because the shutter speed and everything is slow enough on the remote camera, and we're shooting so fast frame rate, it actually captured our other lights going off, right? That happens every now and then, but it works. So that gave us a different point of view, right? But that's me right down here. Whoop. Cool. But you could see when it goes through here, you can't tell which photographs are from my angle, which photographs are from Larry's, right? Because of the quality of the triangle of light. Now, here's another advantage to the triangle of light. Let's get down here to the toasts or the cutting of the cake, right? So I could turn the D light way down low, right? When I was photographing for the first dance and any action on the dance floor, the D light needed to be brighter because that's kind of like my main light coming over my shoulder. But it would be too much shooting into it. So here the D light, I think I lowered it down to 1/32 power, but it still gave luminance to back here for that depth. Look how dark it is over here. Now you could do 4 lights in a room, but I just found that to be too much. And then you're always shooting into a light. So that's why I like just the triangle. Works for me. So here's the speeches. Here's this photograph of Dad. So what we did is we turned off the B light, which is over his shoulder here. And this is just C and D. So D is illuminating this side of his face, and C is illuminating this side of his face, and no on-camera flash. So it gives you that power to sculpt right in camera. This is just the opposite. Right now I'm looking toward the C light. We turn the C light off in camera, and this is the D light that's lighting him. No on-camera flash, right? So it's D and B, right? Now this is all three. So this is B, C, and D, no on-camera flash. And then when we want to photograph over the couple's shoulder, sometimes we have that flash active to show them. And this is just the D light. It's not the on-camera flash. It's the light in the back of the room that's spilling down the head table because of the light sphere. And then here is the D light turned off so that we have total ambient light in this 12mm shot, but the B and C light are illuminating, because you can see the rim light on the parents, right? That's the power you have with independent groups and radio and off-camera flash. It's just every time I'm excited, right? We could blend the ambient light, create these moments, turn lights on and off at will. For this one from the front, the B and C light by themselves are creating these hard shadows because the centerpieces were 4 foot tall and there was only a little sliver opening for the couple. So we turned off the D light, right? So there's no rim light here. And we kept the on-camera flash on direct so that it could not have the shadows from these centerpieces going over our subjects. So I hope all this makes sense. Again, a little bit closer up of the couple, turning off the D light, using the candles and the ambient light for the head table, but still allowing the flashes. You can see the one firing through the flowers here, right? Keeping things going. Totally changing the look of the bride. So this is just the C group, the way the angle of the light is on her nose and face, and the D light. And of course, we're feathering the power because now I'm at aperture 2.8. So I had to lower the flash output so that we weren't washing things out. And we're doing this on the fly, all from camera and without moving the lights, right? It's a whole nother ballgame. And it's really not that complicated. It just takes practice. But it makes a world of difference in the quality of light that you could deliver. Like I said, this was candlelit and it was dark. And the biggest challenge with this was we had to do red eye correction on all these photos because it was literally that dark. And mirrorless now is such a huge advantage that you could focus in this low level of light without having to use a focus assist beam. So just gorgeous. All right, let's get rid of that. This, did that, did that. All right, more details. Did bridal party. Yeah, we're good to go. All right, you want to open it up for Q&A? Talk about storage, right? Here's our primary. And Pete, you could give me the correct name. Like this is the SanDisk Professional, and we were using the Pro Blade transport and then the Pro Blade reader back in the office, which is awesome. You could put 4 Pro Blade memory sticks, which are solid state memory sticks, into these drives. And we've just finished a video project. Hey, boys. So that was helpful to be able to dump data so quickly in the field. We're using the new desktop 8 terabyte SSD drive on our desktop as our primary working drive to work from, just because of the speed and transfer rate, and our in the field SSD drives. Get in there. All right. I'll stop sharing the desktop. Go back here. I have some wild dogs today. Hold on. Let me keep them separated here. 1 second. Come here, boys. Come on. I know you want to play. It's getting time. Technical. You stay here. Little Bono. It's like having 2 toddlers again. You got to keep them separated. Q&A?
I think you got most of the questions. We didn't get a whole lot of them, and I think you covered most of them through the regular presentation, so we are good.
Anything else you guys want to hit on, review?
I didn't see anything else come through, so yeah, with that said, I think we are at the end, and thank you, Bob. That was wonderful.
Always my pleasure.
We love having you around and love having you come to these events and speak. So hopefully we will see you again soon.
In closing, I know it seems like I'm all about the gear, but I'm not. The gear is just a means to get the job done with the highest quality possible. Could we do this with one bounce flash on camera? Sure. Would it look this good? No way. And that's why we get hired back for these big events and these big jobs. And we never have any issues when we do editorial work, meaning you shoot it and you deliver it and then you get no feedback. Well, no news is good news, right? Because they're not saying, can you adjust this? Can you change that? So it's because we roll in, we light it, we're prepared for anything they could throw at us.
Great. Okay.
Thanks, Adorama. Thanks, Pete SanDisk, for having me. Appreciate it. Again, I wish Dawn could have been here. She could have gone into more about marketing and relationship building, and that's the main core of our business, is developing relationships and maintaining those relationships. Because I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but trying to market through social media has become so difficult. I don't understand it really, because I come again from an old school newspaper background. And if you had an ad that was working, you kept that ad running, right? As long as it was getting a good return on investment, good context, good calls. You get an ad that's working on any of the social media networks, even Google, all of a sudden they'll change the algorithm with you. And you're like, how did that ad go from here to here? And then you even call them up and say, hey, can you help me out with this? And they're like, oh no, we'll have to figure it out. It's the algorithm. I'm like, why would you change it if it's working? And now I'm not going to advertise with you anymore. Yeah, I don't know. Can't figure that one out. So networking and building relationships and, being involved face to face still pays dividends. At least it does for our work and the jobs we do.
All right. Well, thanks, Adorama. Thanks, Bob. Till next time.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.